Welcome to this webinar presentation, 5 types of influencers you need to know. My name is Jon Davids here at Influicity. Thank you for joining us today. You know, this webinar topic is an interesting one because clients ask us all the time, what kind of influencers work for my brand, work for my campaign, work for my objective today? And there's a lot of nuance there. So I'm excited to dive into the different types of influencers and share some insights today. If you've enjoyed our content before, thanks for coming back. If you're new here, Influicity works across all aspects of influencer marketing, from social to podcast and beyond. Our content is totally free. All we ask is that if you enjoy it, go ahead and share it with a colleague or post it on LinkedIn. We really appreciate it. Okay, 5 types of influencers you need to know. Let's do it.
Welcome to this webinar presentation brought to you by Influicity, trusted by world-class brands for influencer media, original podcasts, and marketing across emerging platforms. Here is your host, Influicity CEO Jon Davids.
All right, let's get into it. So I'll start off by giving you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about, and then we'll dive right in. So of course, we'll kick off with the major categories of influence, what they look like, how we differentiate them, and all that good stuff. We'll talk about how to leverage each kind of influencer in your marketing activities. We'll talk about bloggers and where bloggers exist today and how to use them. And then we'll finish up by sharing a few case studies and talking about a few of these key points in action. So the first thing we talk about is the celebrity influencer, and that's right at the top of the pyramid. These are people that have large audiences, generally 1 million plus followers, although probably a lot more than that across their various platforms. And we think about them as people whose fame is derived from social media, but they have some sort of crossover in their content and appeal. Now, this is different from someone who is a traditional celebrity, somebody who is a Hollywood movie celebrity or recording artist or a TV star, someone whose fame is derived from traditional channels. We're kind of putting those aside. We're not going to talk about them in this webinar. We're talking about people whose fame was derived from social media channels and then crossed over in some way. And the reason that's an important distinction is because these are people that have very large built-in audiences, and they can bypass traditional media to access that audience on social. So that's what we think about when it comes to a celebrity influencer. They do have mainstream notoriety, although they didn't always have mainstream notoriety. They generally might have some play in TV or music or film, some presence in some way there. And these people generally have major Hollywood agency representation or New York agency talent representation. That's the celebrity influencer. The second one we look at on the list is what we call the mega influencer. These are people that have at least 500,000, probably closer to 1 million. And again, these days, probably way more than 1 million across all their platforms. They have a consistent viewership across their content. They're producing content on a regular basis, and you can generally estimate with some precision what kind of audience is going to tune in to their content. They're posting with frequency of some sort. They have notable brand deals. These people are making a living off of their brand deals, their sponsorship, their ad revenue. So they're going to have some blue chip brands. You're probably also going to notice that they've carved out certain categories for brands they've worked with. So they're not going to work with many soft drink companies. They're going to work with one soft drink company. They're not going to work with a lot of automotive brands. They're going to work with one automotive brand and have a relationship with them over a long period of time. So they have notable carved out brand deals. There's going to be little to no mainstream media presence. These are not the kind of people that you're watching on Jimmy Kimmel or Colbert or on Good Morning America. They're not going to have necessarily mainstream notoriety, but they're going to have a lot of social media notoriety. And they're generally also going to have some form of representation, whether it's a Hollywood agency or an influencer specific agency. These people have representation for sure. Then we go into where most of the influencer activity takes place, and that's what we call the macro influencer. These are your influencer middle class individuals. They're going to have 100,000 to 500,000 or more followers. This represents the vast majority of the influencer population. Most of the influencers that you work with as a brand will fit into the macro influencer space. They're definitely open to doing brand deals. A lot of them are making a living off brand deals, or at least trying to make a living off brand deals. So they're very open to it. They're generally going to be more affordable. You're not going to have to look at high 6-figure or 7-figure deals for these people. They're going to have more affordable rate cards that you can work within. And this, again, makes up most of the influencers that you probably work with as a brand. Below that, we've got the micro influencers. So these are people with anywhere from 20,000 right up to 100,000, maybe more followers. They're up and coming individuals. So they haven't made it to that macro level yet, but they're up and coming. People are tuning in, they're growing. Maybe they're making a living off of sponsorship deals, maybe not, but certainly they want to be making a living off sponsorship deals. There's opportunity for high volume campaigns here. I'm going to address that in one of the case studies I look at. What I mean by that is you can work with lots and lots of micro influencers within your campaign. You can do a campaign with 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 micro influencers because you can generally work with them for not a ton of money. They're affordable and they're going to be within your budget if you want to scale. There's lots of options. The nice thing about micro influencers is that there's plenty of them. So you don't need to worry about working with one or another. You can shift it, you can change it up, you can pivot if one is not working. Micro influencers are plentiful. And the nice thing is that a micro might become a macro. So if you do have a relationship with a micro that's going well, stay in touch, because that person, once they get to know your brand and they grow, will be very valuable indeed. Then we get to the nano influencer. So the nano influencer, I would say, is 5,000 right up to about 20,000 in terms of followers. And again, there's plenty of them. What makes what makes nano influencers interesting is that they're very, very targeted. A nano influencer can be somebody who's influential in their neighborhood, in their specific geography, in their specific category. Maybe they have a super high-end niche, like they're interested in fishing in the Arctic, or they're interested in a certain brand of watch from Switzerland that nobody else knows about. Maybe they travel to unique places. So not that you're going to get a ton of scale with these people, but you're going to get hyper targeting. They're great for word of mouth. Oftentimes, nano influencers are the neighborhood gossips, or they're the popular kid in high school. So they're going to generate a lot of notoriety, word of mouth, because they're generally going to be notable, popular people in their neighborhood at the very least. What's also interesting about them is that they could be friends following friends. So they could just be popular groups of people, and you have people who are following their friends, and there's a lot of them. Last thing I'll mention about nano influencers is that a lot of them do not make a living off of social media. So even though there's plenty of them, you might not find that all of them are receptive to working with you because they just don't want to. They don't need to. They have day jobs. They're not interested in working with brands. So there's lots of them. They're fun to work with. They can accomplish a lot from a targeting standpoint, but they might not be open to a brand deal. And that really represents the 5 types of influencers: the celebrity influencer, the mega influencer, the macro influencer, the micro influencer, right down to that nano influencer. And the visual representation there of the nano at the bottom, going right up to the celebrity at the top, that really is a good visual understanding of how many there are. The population of nano influencers is much bigger than the population of celebrity influencers. The celebrity influencer is one that you want to use as little as you can to accomplish as much as you can. The celebrity provides a halo effect on your brand. And what that means is, even though they reach a certain number of people and they deliver a certain number of impressions, their influence goes way beyond that. The celebrity influencer might get press, they might get media attention, They might be doing events or keynote speeches. They might have other Twitter accounts or other social media accounts that follow them and echo and parrot and repeat or retweet what they say. So you're going to get a lot of other, you're going to get a lot of additional media out of that celebrity influencer, and they provide a halo effect to your brand. They are branded influencers, which means audiences know what they stand for, they know who they are, and what that means is their brand will rub off on your brand. If you work with a celebrity influencer who's really, really well known in the beauty space, for example, and you're launching a beauty brand or you're launching a new product under your beauty brand, this influencer's halo effect and branded appeal will rub off on your brand, and it will give you that extra amplification, that extra augmentation, because they have public notoriety in a big way. You're definitely going to be spending more money on them, but that additional money should lead to a much larger payoff. These people pack way more bang for the buck than anybody else, so you'll pay up, but you should get a really good return on your investment. The macro influencer, again, is the influencer middle class. This is who you're going to be working with most of the time. They are the heart and soul of the influencer community. They make up most of the influencer marketing spend in terms of amount spent and the number of people that are in this category. They make most of the money. There's a constantly refreshed supply of macro influencers. Some macro influencers will go on and become mega influencers. They'll become celebrity influencers. And a lot of other influencers who are in the nano or micro category will move up and become macro influencers. So you have a constantly refreshed supply of influencers entering this macro space. There's a good mix of authenticity and reach with this particular category. So yes, they will have authentic relationships with their audience, but they're not going to be super niche. There's going to be reach there. There's going to be scale. They're going to be reaching hundreds of thousands or millions of people, but still talking about something in an authentic way. That's what makes them great to work with. Now we have the micro influencer. These people are great for what I call content arbitrage. What I mean by that is having a lot of content created by a lot of people and using that to do things like trending hashtags on Instagram, trending topics on Twitter. You can do that with micro influencers because you can get a lot of them to talk about something at one time and not pay a whole lot of money relative to the scale you get. I'm going to talk about this a little more in a case study coming up in just a couple minutes. You'll get great creative output. So these people are also great at being creative, great at creating stuff that goes a long way. So if you need content for your brand, whether it's in cooking or travel or fashion or fitness or what have you, these people are great at creating content for your brand. And finally, they're hyper targeted. They have a very tight audience, and that goes a long way when you're creating content that is a little more niche in nature. Let's talk about a place for bloggers. So bloggers are really, really good at search engine optimization. One common use case that we recommend is if you're going to work with an influencer who also has a blog and you fit a certain category, maybe it's finance, maybe it's medicine, pharmaceutical, government, politics, something like that, it makes sense to create a complementary piece of content that's written, because that will rank you well in search engines. So from an SEO perspective, blogging makes a lot of sense. It's really good at translating long form content. So doing that in a way that you can express a lot, which you can't necessarily do in a TikTok video or an Instagram post or certainly a tweet. Maybe you can in a creative way, but having a space for long form content is really effective when it comes to blogging. It's great for explanatory content too. Maybe you have a piece of content on Instagram or Twitter, but you want to direct traffic somewhere where they can learn more and dig in deeper, and that's what a blog is for. Some categories that are great for blogging, like I mentioned, finance is a good one because you can explain topics and give examples in a robust way. Medicine, medical journaling, if you're selling a product, maybe you're selling to doctors or you're selling to professionals, having a blog makes a lot of sense. Pharmaceutical, especially if you want to explain something to the consumer set, That's a great use case as well. And finally, government, anything having to do with maybe voting or a certain type of party politics. Maybe you're lobbying in some way for one form or another. Blogging is a great way to do that. Let's jump into some case studies now. I'm going to talk about some different use cases. I'll play a quick video here, and then on the other side, I'll talk about some things we can learn from these types of bloggers. Here we go. All right. So as you can see there, we had influencers who were also fashion models creating content for Caribbean Joe. The cool thing about this is that these were multi-purpose influencers. This was a real fashion shoot. People were shooting photography that was going in the Caribbean Joe catalog on the Caribbean Joe website, showing that season's clothing. But because these were influencers and we intentionally picked influencers to be the models, we were able to capture a lot of content that went up on Instagram, content that went on Instagram stories, content that went on YouTube. It went all over the place. It went all over the place during the creation of the content, during the photo shoot. And then a few weeks later, when the photography was ready for launch, we had that post on Instagram as well. So really good multi-purpose use of influencers. We had different forms of content, different forms of exposure. So like I mentioned, we had content going out during the fashion shoot, and we also had content coming in after the fact. This is a really scalable and durable way to produce content because you can do it with 2 models or influencers. You can do it with 5 or 10 of them. You can make it a regular part of your content output. So it's a really clean way to use influencers and a fun way to do it as well. Okay, we're going to jump on to the next example here. This is with John Frieda, a hair care product, and it's a use case using a celebrity influencer. And I'm going to show you how we did it in a really creative way right after this. Let's take a look at a few minutes of this video, a few seconds, I should say, of this video. Here we go.
How does an A-list star turn heads on the red carpet? I'm Jessica Harlow, and that's next on Live Dress.
I'm a sweatpants and jeans girl when it comes to everyday, but when there's a red carpet, I really step it up. I glam it up for that. I have to say that my character probably inspired more of my personal style than the other way around. It kind of evolved into the way she dresses, which is the Upper East Side and kind of preppy, but classic and chic at the same time.
Our Live Dress style team is set to give Beth a brand new look from head to toe. We've got wardrobe with Alicia, hair by Kale, and makeup by Kristen. With this look, we're recreating a Hollywood glam look.
I always love anything that accentuates that. Wait.
Okay, so I'll let this play in the background here. What we're doing here really is we have a piece of content that includes a celebrity influencer, that's Beth Bear, as you see right there. We have various stylists. We have an influencer, a YouTuber as our host, and we're blending them together for a mainstream celebrity surrounded by macro and micro influencers. Really good way to combine them, mesh them together, and get the best of all worlds. This is a piece of content that gets heavy PR. It got heavy PR when we launched it because we have a celebrity involved. So Beth Bears is getting red carpet ready. Of course, this was all fictional. It wasn't a real red carpet event, but who knows, who cares? And we were able to get some great PR out of this. And we packaged this in a really neat way too. So we were able to turn it into a YouTube video, Instagram content that ran on broadcast. Really, really neat way to get a lot of mileage out of one piece of content. And I'm going to finish off with this piece of content from Garnier. Let me go ahead and play you this video, and then I'll talk about it on the other side. Okay, so what's interesting about this campaign is this included 150 influencers across various categories. We had influencers in food, fashion, we had fitness, yoga people, travel people. We had different categories, and we were able to use these influencers, again, 150 of them, to showcase this new Garnier line of products. You'll notice we didn't use any influencers that were in the hair care category in particular. We wanted to be more outside the box and more kind of diverse than that. So we went ahead and chose influencers that weren't so on the nose. We were able to generate a trending hashtag through this campaign. And we did that on Instagram by having a lot of influencers post a lot of content at one time and really flood the system, flood the zone, as they say, to create a trending hashtag on Instagram. And it's a really efficient use of budget because, again, you get a lot of content, a lot of efficacy out of it, and you're able to do that in a really seamless way working with a company like Influicity. So sharing some final thoughts here. For most brands, macro influencers rule. It's that simple. You have your celebrities, you have your mega influencers, your micros, your nanos, but for the most part, macro influencers rule. That's the influencer middle class, and that's where you're going to get the most mileage in general out of most of your campaigns. But certainly for a lot of the other stuff, and certainly even for the macro campaigns, working with a company like Influicity can really help you take it to the next level and elevate your influencer performance. You're going to be able to develop a funnel of micro influencers for arbitrage purposes. If you want to create a lot of content and have it go a long way, that's where micros might come in. And finally, not all influencers are created equally. So look beyond the vanity metrics, the likes and the comments. Look deeper to make sure that the influencers are on brand, that audiences are relating to the content you're putting out, and that you're getting a positive ROAS, a return on your ad spend, or ROEs, or a return on your influencer spend, out of those influencer dollars. You won't regret it. Thank you for tuning into this webinar. Any questions, hit us up, success@influicity.com. Check out our website. Any questions you have, go ahead and get a hold of us there. And of course, follow us at Influicity for more great content like this.